Welcome back, everyone. This is Akanar here with more Talos Principle 2, where last time we completed the second area here, the wooded plateau. We were introduced to our driller equipment, the new driller mechanic, playing with portals, Talos Principle edition. It was a lot of fun. We got a bunch of puzzles done, and we lit a beam, the second beam of 3. We have one more to do, one more to light up, and then something happens. No idea what's going to happen, but I'm sure it'll be great. And we also were introduced to Miranda, this mysterious robot, who we don't really know much about, other than that she is not from New Jerusalem, so she's one of us, but not. And she also mentioned this machine, capital M. And we don't know what that does either. We really don't know anything. All we know is there are more puzzles to do, and so that's what we're gonna do. I'm a simple robot. I see puzzle, I solve a puzzle. So we're gonna be getting to that third area momentarily. I did want to take a quick note here, something I had just briefly noticed as I was poking around it a bit off camera. There are owls. Each of these sockets in the ring, we've got the full owl here and then the little owl faces on each of these. I don't know if that was the same way on the in the first world or the first area, but something to take note of, I guess. I don't know what it means, just like everything else, but I do know that there are more puzzles to do. So we're gonna be making our way to world number 3. We are not going to be skipping puzzles. No matter how many Prometheus sparks the game tries to throw at us, we're not going to be skipping any puzzles. This is a no skipping puzzles playthrough, even if our team member Yakut would skip them all, the bastard. Eastern Wetlands. East 3, that is where we are headed next. So let's get going, shall we? Let's get on our tram ride here.
Interesting question earlier. Where did all the tech in the labs come from? So I had a look at the serial numbers, and it turns out the answer is
unfortunate audio hiccups.
Wow, I guess that makes sense. After the explosion, the colony was abandoned. Nobody ever went back for all that stuff.
We had enough to deal with. So many dead.
So that's one question answered. But how did they go from scavenged Alexandria tech to all this?
How did we go from nothing to where we are now? Through the application of reason and the right tools.
So the technology came from New Alexandria. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. This game just is doing an absolutely incredible job at just I'm left speechless sometimes. The first two areas, the first two areas, they get you thinking, oh, okay, we're gonna have, you know, another tower to deal with.
Look at the size of that structure.
How does the materials?
This is way more than a tower.
Is it the same stuff as the other buildings?
Yeah. I know it looks like some type of concrete, but the molecular structure is completely different. Whatever it is, it's a lot stronger and less brittle.
Are the labs made out of the same material?
No, that's just ordinary concrete. Although it does have some molecular weirdness going on too. Too little variation in the grain.
There were a couple pretty interesting tidbits there. One of them, unfortunately, cut out a little bit because of the stupid audio glitch that I'm still experiencing. Very annoying. However, Melva mentioned it was New Alexandria. New Alexandria was where they got some of the, at least the tech from the labs. And still doesn't explain exactly how they went from, you know, that New Alexandria tech, obviously, to this, my goodness. But also, Yakut mentioned that the molecular structure is kind of weird. Like it's not really concrete. I guess if we were Jacques 420 would say, it must be alien. Regardless, this area is, I love the look of this area. This place is gorgeous. We've got this massive statue out here, or at least part of a statue. It is really remarkable, the level of detail that they have managed to construct in each of these worlds so far, and just how expansive they are. Oh, look, here's one of the Golden Gate puzzles. Are we actually getting, we saw before a little bit of a glimpse inside one of the Golden Gate puzzles back in the last area. This is an even better view. I think I might be able to see the new piece of equipment that we're going to be dealing with, which we did get a preview of before. We got a preview in the last lab that we checked out. I was calling it a beam inverter, but I think we'll find out the canon name shortly. Let's check out puzzle 1. Let's head over in this direction. We'll stick this time. We'll go ahead and we'll go with a bit more of the prescribed order of things, as opposed to doing the first two lost puzzles. The two lost puzzles first. Let's check out Inversion. Okay, maybe I was right. Let's see what we've got here. What is our new equipment called? It is indeed an inverter. Yes. Okay, they're doing a very good job communicating, I think, with those labs, because I kind of said drilling. I didn't call it a driller per se, but I did say the word drilling because of the animation that they had in the wall there. And this one just kind of makes sense. If you're going from red to blue and blue to red, you can see the colors switching back and forth. It just kind of fits. So in order to invert things, I'm guessing it can only invert, right? It wouldn't make sense for it to go from blue to blue. It has to invert. It has to take the signal, and then an interesting detail that I had not noticed. I mean, I haven't been noticing too much of the details on some of these pieces of equipment, but this one, you can see when you actually select blue, it lights up red. And if we deselect that and we select red, it actually fully lights up blue. So it tells you which color it's about to output. So it looks like we probably want to get our other inverter here first. I did not mean to do that. I meant to deselect, but I guess I have to, if I want to deselect a connection, I have to be pointing at the connection. So let's get our second inverter here. And now I'm guessing we can take an inverter. Yeah, this one is outputting red, so we can just take that and invert it back to blue. Not that we want to do that per se, because we probably want to shoot something in here because we need red to get to the end. So let's see how we got. We need to go red to blue, and then blue to red. Simple. It's a pretty straightforward mechanic. Nothing earth-shattering. Pretty simple, but we'll see exactly how they decide to apply these in the upcoming puzzles. Man, that is such a cool variation. I love the
think about New Alexandria all the time.
Deviation from a tower.
This place was built on its bones just brings it all back even more. We were so optimistic when we started, so full of ourselves. We thought we could accomplish anything. And then, in one single moment, it was all gone. I remember a flash, and then just lying there, realizing that my legs had melted. I tried to pull myself away from the fire, but the servos in my arms were broken.
Oh my god.
If Eustathius hadn't found me, sorry. Just some old scars.
That is a harrowing tale. That is the first time, really, that we've heard any of them, that we've heard any mention from anybody about anything. I mean, they've mentioned error codes for pain, but that detail of him surviving the New Alexandria explosion and losing limbs in the process, which have obviously been replaced at this point, but it brings a whole nother level of humanity to our robot team members, our robot society in general. Very interesting. As I'm wont to do, I'm of course poking around side areas that are nearby, and in the process, I'm seeing some very interesting structures that are just cool to look at, but also they have some connections that we're going to be shooting some lasers around, similar to our last level. Was that a rabbit that I just saw as well? The little wildlife creatures are a great touch. But I will keep generally heading from one puzzle to the next. I'll try not to stray too far from. We'll see what the intended course this time, if we follow things in their exact order or prescribed order, how everything works out. I'll explore in the general vicinity of each area, but I'm seeing something over there, which looks like it might be another audio log, potentially. Okay, we'll get to that, but first, puzzle 2. Energy maintenance. We have a connector this time, and there is an inverter that we will get access to shortly. Let's get access to our inverter. So far we've had, what is it, 4 mechanics from the first game. We've had connectors, we've had jammers, we've had fans, we've had, what else? There's one other one that I'm forgetting. We have not carried over, recorders? Is that the one? Recorders and the plates that you would use to hold yourself on, which was kind of like an extension of the recorder. It doesn't seem like they're going to be bringing back the recorder mechanic at all, which I kind of liked. I think some people didn't like it because it felt kind of cumbersome that you'd have to record yourself for so long sometimes to kind of make the puzzle work. I think we can go ahead though and connect. We can connect. If I give myself, I didn't give myself a lot of room here. What I want to do is I want to put this like here. No. Here. No, I forgot to keep the connections. That should work. Now I can take the inverter here. No. Wait, how did I screw that up? Oh, because I was powering it from this side. Of course. So, okay, let me I'm talking about different mechanics from different games, when in reality what I should be doing here is, let's keep the connections here and add this one in. And now we should have it. Now we have a circuit that can sustain itself and allow me to bring the inverter to this side and get access. Okay, pretty easy so far, just getting us introduced to these. But I was gonna say, they've introduced 3 new mechanics, but they're not, again, they're not like really breaking the paradigm. They're just so far variations on familiar mechanics, right? The inverter feels very similar to the connector. The driller feels very similar to the jammer. They're kind of like cousins. So I'm still having fun with the puzzles. I am anxious or curious to see if there's going to be anything that really kind of, oh man, this is a super sick mechanic. I haven't seen anything mind-blowing yet, even though they're fun variations on what we do know. New interface content available. Okay. I'm always waiting at the end of these, right? There's almost always some dialogue between the team members that you are being fed at the prescribed time, but not this time. Whoa, what is that sound effect? Is this not an audio log?
When we go to New Jerusalem,
it is.
I'm going to have a cat. He's going to be black and white, and his name is going to be Bean. And I'm going to make sure that he never gets sick, and he never gets old, and he'll be my best friend forever.
So we have our first audio log, or our first audio log out in the world. We obviously had the data stream transmission where Miranda, invaded our consciousness. But she's talking about going to New Jerusalem. When we finally go to New Jerusalem, which suggests there is a group of robots that are with her. There would have to be a group of robots. I don't see how one robot on their own could construct this unless they were having help from aliens. But she's going to have a cat. A cat named Bean. That's great. The big question is, where did they come from? Were they separated somehow from the New Jerusalem folks at some point? Or is there really some other simulation somewhere in the world that spawned its own set of robots? Cat sitting advice? Pellegrino. So I'm cat sitting Yakut's cat Bruce, and he keeps peeing on my charging pod. Is there anything I can do to prevent this? Clean it very thoroughly so not a single trace of smell remains. I know it's hard without the ability to smell, but we do have some cleaning agents that should do the trick. Contact me on private if you need a list. Oh, and make sure Bruce isn't distressed by something. Cats don't like being moved from their territory. Maybe it would be easier if you just moved him back to Yakut's place and fed him there. No, Bruce is just a bastard. Ya bastard. He loves peeing on anything electrical, chewing on cables, and generally just breaking stuff. This is normal. And I warned you, Pellegrino. I could have given him to Neith. She's used to him. But he's so fuzzy, and I love him. Aw, cats. Good old cats. Looks like we've got a terminal here on the way to Puzzle 3, so we'll look at this as well real quick. Founding 3. From Hypatia's Journal, number 3, Volume 1, The Founding of New Jerusalem, Day 42. We broke ground on the first of the permanent structures today, a large hall that will eventually be converted into a performance and exhibition space. My idea. Although for now we'll use it as a workshop. It's strange, this place. There's a lot of open space, and I didn't think that I would find it so unusual. But I suppose we all spent more time at the dam than was originally planned, and now it's difficult to get used to not having that low ceiling over our heads. It's probably just me. Byron loves being outside and is always volunteering for scavenging missions. Lithrasir usually tags along, although he seems more fascinated with observing nature and various weird creatures. At night, I sometimes catch myself standing by the door, not because I have guard duty, just watching the stars. It's oddly comforting to think that they've always been there, that they watched our ancestors, standing where I now stand. It is cool getting these little bits of insight into the origin story of the robots. Message fragment. What is this? Message fragment 5358? Is that what it said? 5358. Progress from Miranda to 5358. This is the number that we've been seeing everywhere. We finished setting up the external site at the lake. The area is so stunning. We forgot about the experiment for a while and went for a long walk. The ways in which all the different aspects of nature interact with each other are endlessly fascinating to me, and the sheer variety of living things, even on a simple green meadow. It is really remarkable that they were able, this simulation was able to recreate that sense of awe and wonder. You know, that's not something you would expect from a, you know, something, an AI, a machine, that ability to appreciate nature. So many aspects of humanity that they have recreated. I know we're playing a video game, but it is still kind of cool to think that that is possible, and maybe that is just how we are. We're just a very complicated set of programming that we just don't understand the full algorithm of our emotions and perception of the universe. Sadly, we then stumbled onto the carcass of a deer that had been torn apart by wolves. It must have suffered enormously, and thinking about that made me feel truly terrible. There is so much pain in nature. That makes me think of another thing that I had kind of not realized at first. When we first learned about this New Alexandria explosion that killed 31 of them, I remarked at the time, I said, how sad. And I later, when I was going over that footage, I kind of realized I had just said that on instinct. It had not even occurred to me to think like, oh, those are just robots, right? Oh, these are just 31 robots. Like, you know, you threw 31 desktop computers out of a window. You wouldn't be sad about that. But there's something that is definitely human about these creatures, these entities. They have faces like us. They talk like us. They seem to have so much of us in them. It's a cool thing to think about that even though you know they're a machine, you know that they don't run on the same hardware, but they kind of have a similar programming, and you start to relate to them. This is a really fascinating bit here that we do see. It looks like 5358 is somebody, but is it a robot like us? Or is it some other alien or some other creature? Why is it using a number instead of having a name like everybody else seems to have? Okay, let's check the last one here. Ecosystem Engineers by Anthony Castor. Cutting down swaths of trees for their building projects, thoughtlessly causing radical changes to large environments and forcing local species to adapt to their artificial habitats. These are the traits of a species of intelligent, industrious, and extremely impactful ecosystem engineers. Humans? No, I'm talking about beavers. Like us, beavers transform their environments via building, and their actions have real consequences, creating vast wetlands that some species thrive in while others die. Human activity is very similar. We too are ecosystem engineers, and we too benefit some species while harming others. Everything about this is completely natural, including the damage to other species. After all, that's what competition and evolution is all about. Those species that adapt to the ecosystems we create will, over the coming millennia, become the core of a new biodiversity, and so evolution runs its course. If we don't like the result, if we think some species should be preserved despite being outcompeted, well, that's anything but natural. It is, however, very human. And then a response from Miranda. So Miranda somehow, this is where I want to know, okay, this would be their terminal system, of course, right? These responses about failing to load profiles, these are not coming from people from New Jerusalem. I think that I just sort of inherently assumed that this is all connected, but this is a different group of people, right? And we finally see Miranda responding to one of them. It's fascinating how so much of what we do is common in animals, but furthered enormously by our intelligence and our ability to remember. Through us, the universe strives to a greater level of complexity. But does the universe have the capacity to strive for anything? We must be careful to avoid projecting human values onto the cosmos. All right, time to move on to puzzle 3. Let's also quickly check behind. Okay, no switch behind the number 3 placard there. But we are on to there and back again. We have a connector, and we can immediately open this. So why don't we? Why not open this force field? And we have a green connector, which gets us straight to the goal, or a green receptor. In here, we have an inverter, and we have a pressure plate. That opens a force field, and then we have an RGB converter that takes red. So we can get access to blue by putting something on here. The RGB converter we can get by having red. So in order to get red that far, how do we shoot red that far? Because the line of sight here is a little bit complicated. If we want to, we can get a blue source from here. So we need to figure out a way. It looks like we can actually lower this force field. There's another receptor here. I hadn't noticed that at first. So if we shoot blue here, it looks like that'll block that force field or keep that deactivated. So we can shoot red. What we want to do is set this up a little differently. We want to, let's move this. Let's keep the connections, and let's move this kind of in the corner so we don't block line of sight for our inverter. And then we'll take straight from the red source to power up blue, to power up the blue receptor with the inverter. And now we can take that and keep this door open. Good. Okay, so now we're sort of past that first force field, which allows us to now take this inverter. And now we just have a two-step process here to hook up the blue source to the inverter and get red over here, and that gets us access to the RGB converter. And I will also take a quick moment here to mention another detail that I had not noticed at first about the RGB converter, because my brain is very tunnel vision, hyper focus, especially when I start solving a puzzle. The only thing that matters is the puzzle solution, and looking at all the angles of the puzzle area and how do I connect all the different pieces, and noticing little details like the white flashing light on the RGB converter. And then when you actually connect it to a source, you get one piece or one side of the converter that lights up with that color. And then when you go to light up the other side with blue, the whole thing becomes the resulting green. I just had completely missed that. The whole first couple areas that we were doing, I never noticed that little detail right there in front of me, because that's just how tunnel vision I get. But it's a very sweet, excellent little detail that they have put in. All of these pieces of equipment with their updated look, and then the new ones with these cool new details. Love it. Now, we need to get back out. We need to get back out, so that shouldn't be too hard if we just extend. We keep the connections here, but we extend this to blue. And I didn't have to hook up that RGB converter. What I want to do, actually, is do what we did before, except like this. So now we're powering the gate from this side, which allows us to bring both of these pieces of equipment through, keeping that force field deactivated while we bring these through. And now it should be a simple matter of we can create, having an inverter as well as a connector allows you to, we've already got access to, well, we don't even need the connector, do we? We just need to connect here and here, red and blue. We've already got, and we can get the resulting green. Okay, so that's also not too complicated. We're just kind of combining all of the 3 different pieces of equipment there that allow us to connect beams.
Good job, 1K.
I've been trying to see if there are any funky jumping things that you can do in this game. That was something that the first game was kind of well known for, the fact that there were some pretty, if you were persistent enough, you could reach some places that might not seem like it at first glance, just because the physics and the jumping ability actually were a little bit breakable. So far, I haven't found anything too noteworthy like that in this game, but I'm gonna keep looking. We also have the coastline here, and maybe our first water that's actually deep. This one looks like we could actually go swimming if we wanted to. And of course, we have to try, right? We have to see in the beginning were the words. We have to see what happens. Look at our display. It starts to go out. Neath was not kidding. We don't have enough insulation to go fully scuba diving here. So that is funny. There is something, like there are some areas of land that look like you might be able to reach them, but I feel like they're probably a little out of reach here. I don't think we can actually get out here. If I keep going, I'm just gonna hit the wall. No go. Boots us back up at the last save point. Okay, no swimming for us, fine. This thing is crazy looking though. This is by far the most, it's a little scary if I'm being honest, right? Just because it actually does kind of feel alien. There's something about it that maybe the fact that it looks like I don't know, like some side of, like if you were looking at a bacteria or something, not a bacteria, but like a virus under you know, super powerful microscope. There is this structure that we saw at first way back over here, which I kind of do want to check out. Aha! And it turns out there was an audio log here. It's not just the fact that there is a connector up there that we need to use at some point, but there is an audio log to find.
Let us consider the city. What is a city? It is not a gift from the gods, nor the product of nature. Unlike a mountain or a river, it is something that must be built through the deliberate arrangements of material by a mind imposing order on the world. And it is built to serve a purpose. To that end, it has roads and fountains and walls. And to the same end, it has laws and leaders. And though each city is built according to a different plan, all cities must serve their purpose, or they will fall and become ruins. Therefore, we may conclude that a city is also a kind of machine, constructed to improve the life of its citizens.
Strange audio glitches aside, there is the question still about where are these audio logs coming from, the Stratton of Stegera ones, because unless I'm mistaken, I feel like he was from a long time ago, before there would have been audio recordings. So how have they, is this like a generative AI that has been used to formulate what they think his voice would have been? Is that what we're dealing with? Also, it's interesting that our team members have not made mention. None of our team members have commented on the fact that we are getting these audio logs. They didn't comment on the Miranda one either. So while it does seem like they have a connection to us, like they can, you know, when we're streaming, I guess maybe is when that connection is active. Maybe that's the answer, because they're able at times to see what we're seeing, but maybe it's only at particular moments when we choose to actually stream what we're seeing. Because it had made me think that we had some sort of like, I don't know, sort of almost a Borg-like conscious connection. but we still retain our individuality. But they haven't been commenting when we've heard these audio logs, so not everything is being shared. It looks like this line actually terminates here, and there is the connector that it ends up at. So this is one end of that connection, and we're going to be shooting a beam to it from this puzzle, maybe? Somewhere around here. Okay, this is actually right by puzzle 3. I didn't notice that at first, but, oh, I guess this reset because we went swimming. We went swimming and died, so our puzzle reset, but that's fine. What I think we'll do is we'll quickly set it back up so that we have green going to this receiver or this connector up here, on the presumption that it's like the last world where we had to somehow connect green across the map to get to a Pandora Tower. I haven't seen a Pandora Tower yet, but let's just operate under that theory for now until proven otherwise. And there's our green. Nope. There's our green. Now we have green pointed there, so we'll see if that turns out to be true later, or turns out to be what we want later. For now, we're gonna move on to puzzle number 4, which is right here. Puzzle number 4. Let's take a look at Refraction. Refraction is the name of the game for this puzzle. We got 2 inverters behind a force field. We can get access to them via this inverter. All right, so that opens that force field. We have a blue source here, and we need a blue source to open this force field so that we can get from a double inversion. Oh, this one is actually behind a purple barrier, and this is our goal over here. We need a blue receptor at the goal, and the only way there is through this purple barrier. So what is behind this other force field then? Let's open that up. A purple. Maybe we'll get purple at some point, but a red source. But we can't shoot through these. We can't go through these bars, right? It just gives us vision. It lets us see where we're shooting beams at, but we can't shoot the beams through. So we have red, which I presume what we want actually. How do we do this? We got to start thinking in terms of inverter without getting too overcomplicated. It would be great. I need blue at the end, right? Blue is the eventual goal, which I could do if I could somehow get 2 connectors from this, or inverters from this blue source, blue to red to blue. But I don't know if the angles allow that, because I have to use this last inverter to get to here. This is the only inverter that can connect to this blue receptor, and it's behind a purple barrier, so I can't take it out. Which means going into here, I have to shoot red to it. And I don't have, from this angle, I don't have a clear shot from the blue source. So we need to go from this red source to blue, to an inverter, which turns it into blue, and then to another inverter, which turns it into red, and that gets us to the last inverter, which turns to blue. So I need one of these inverters to power That's how I do it. No, wait. What if keeping the angle straight and the different, what do I have to have powered in order to keep this door open? It's starting to get a little bit scrambled. I need to be able to keep this force field open so that I can have access to the red. And I think I need to power this. I want to shoot one of the inverters from this red source to this blue receptor. But I need to keep this force field open, which means I need to keep this powered from this side. I need to keep the blue receptor powered from this side. Can I do that? If I move this back over here, this allows me now to move this guy to right here, and then would this, could I bring this into the mix? I'm not sure if this will work. I feel like this is gonna get screwed up. It's getting screwed up because I'm trying to output 2 colors from this inverter. I'm trying to output red from this side, but I'm also trying to output blue from this side, so that doesn't work. So that's not the answer. I'm a little flummoxed by this one at this point because I'm getting a little lost in inverter space already. Let's try to simplify. In order to open this force field, I need... Is there any other source anywhere? There was no source behind here, right? The only 2 emitters that I have are here. I have a blue emitter, and then I have a red emitter. So I have to power this door using this, correct? Using these 2 inverters to go from red to blue to red to blue. But now, how do I utilize this guy? With this guy, don't I? It's this guy. That does not conflict. It does conflict here. But it's okay because this guy is trying to output red, and this one is trying to output blue. They're both attempting to output, and those 2 things are canceling each other out. It's almost as though there is nothing here, right? It's almost as though this beam doesn't exist because these 2 are essentially negating each other. That's why this works. So now I could take this out, couldn't I? Now this is open on its own, and now this is outputting blue, which makes this... Okay, it was much simpler than I was making it, which is often the case. I don't know why I was getting so screwed up there. This is there have been a few puzzles so far. I would say the game overall has not felt extremely challenging just yet, but there have been a handful of puzzles where you really have to simplify things. You can't get too overcomplicated. I mean, that's maybe every puzzle, but I've definitely gotten a couple of those where things have gone off the tracks because I was overcomplicating things. Keep it simple, stupid. We've got some new interface content. We can check that out real quick here. Places of Longing, Paris. Oh, that's also beautiful. The artwork posts are actually ones that I like. Whoever's doing these pieces of art, I don't know what this style or this, if it has, I'm not a huge art buff by any stretch. So whatever technique is being used here, I really like it. It's very beautiful. Paris was an ancient city, sometimes called the City of Light, one of the great capitals of the world, home to tradition and innovation alike. It was the birthplace of one of the greatest revolutions in history, the moment that gave birth to modernity in all its glories and horrors alike. The spirit of freedom that was born here, although it was suppressed by enemies and traitors, never entirely faded, and it lived on in the minds of artists for many generations. Maybe something of that spirit still remains in us. Looks like we've got another Sphinx monument over here. Inside of... Is this some sort of maze? What are we dealing with here? I think from this... Just looking at this depiction here, there is a location that we need to look for from... we've already kind of explored a little bit on the other side. This is kind of on the other side of the island where the statue is. And looking from that perspective, there is something... Hello there. Got another fox friend just wandering around here. But there is something to find here. Don't know what it is, but we're going to have to look over in that location. We'll look at our interface as well, but I'm sure the interface is going to explain the glaringly obvious here. Okay, it's just taking a reference photo. Never mind. E3 engraving. E3. We're on East 3, aka E3. All right, so we take reference photos, which is fine. Probably something I would do if I were playing a Mislike, but we need to check over on that side of the island again at some point. So 5 is over this way, but what is down here? There is a path over this way. It's a lost puzzle. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and do the lost puzzle here. It's at a point in the progression of the path here where it's kind of like puzzle 4.5. So let's do it. Transposition, or at least let's try to do it. Who knows? We might run into our first. Some of these lost puzzles can be tricky, but let's give it a shot. We've got a jammer here, and we've got an inverter, and we have a driller wall that I can see. We have a blue emitter, and then a purple barrier that leads to a couple things. A blue receiver, which powers down this force field, I guess. No, it powers down. What does it power down? The cable goes over here, so I'm not sure. Let's try to... Well, we can't get a blue signal to it right now because we only have an inverter and a blue emitter. So we can make red. We can make red, which we can shoot through here. Let's try to do that, I guess. I can't shoot that from here, though. Oh, actually, I don't have an angle, do I? There's no angle that allows me to hit both of these, so I can't actually do that. So I guess the only thing that I can do that makes any sense right now is to use the jammer on this force field so that I can get access to this portion. So now that I'm through here, it looks like these are actually going to lower this gate, which is kind of a... It's just sort of a... usually you're lowering a force field. I guess it, you know, lowering a gate, lowering a force field, what's the difference? But it just feels, for whatever reason, it's just a little deviation from the normal pattern of Talos Principle puzzles. Not sure why, but either way, what do we need to do? I think what we want to do is we want to take this connector and hook it up here and have access to it to where it can see the inverter. So let's just leave it here, because now what we can do is we can go back with the jammer, and we can put the jammer through this way to open up that force field from this side. And now the inverter can be connected to this connector, and that gets read to that force field. Now we can jam this force field again and have access to the driller. So now the driller can go here. I think that's the only driller wall that I've seen. So now that that driller wall is there, we can take something through. What do we want to take through? Probably the inverter. Ultimately, it looks like we want to power... Oh, I think we actually want to do a switcheroo. We want to take this through here, and then we want to send the inverter back through. We want these two to switch places, I think. Because now I can take this blue from here and power that guy, and then go back over here with the inverter, and I might need to adjust the position of... Maybe not. I think I'd actually do it from here, I think. I need to rejam this force field, but I think this will work. Does that not work? I feel like... Oh, I keep making some silly mistakes where I'm not in line of sight. I'm not leaving my inverter or whatever connector piece of equipment in line of sight. That's just my bad. Let me slightly adjust that. Gotta be a little more cognizant of where these lines... See, right there. Just that little slight mistake of not having full line of sight. If I drop this here... That one connects to the red now, and that should connect to the blue this time. Details. Gotta be detail-oriented. And now... we get through. Excellent. Lost puzzle? Not too bad this time.
I sent the drone to have a look at one of the other puzzle clusters. It seems they remain inert until they're connected. I uploaded the pictures to the log.
Should we check them out with the VTOL?
Let's conserve fuel as much as we can. There's no point in going there if it's all dead.
So basically giving us an explanation for why we can't go do all the puzzles in the game at one time. But I think he sent us a research thing as well. We can check out your Yakut North survey, drone data from the other puzzle clusters. Yeah, I sent the drone to have a look at another puzzle cluster, but it seems they remain inactive until someone gets there or until the transport system goes online. Boy, it is snowy looking. My goodness, it looks like we have headed to the Arctic Circle all of a sudden here. Unless this is just a grayscale photo for some reason, but brr, I don't think, luckily we're robots and the cold doesn't affect us, question mark. Wow, there's actually still a lot more over here to explore. And I do see where we shot the green beam. Okay, interesting. I still have not seen, never mind, I see it now. There is the Pandora Tower. I was like, where's the Pandora Tower? We haven't seen that yet. These areas just stretch out so massively. Here's this other, we've seen this now in each area, this flower or maybe phonograph. Not sure yet what its significance might be, but it is a recurring motif. Oh, we can get up there. Yay, I did it. Now, we were in the middle of looking for puzzle 5. Where was that at? I think it might have been over this way. There it is, puzzle 5, blinking right at us. Let's check it out here. Imprisoned. Imprisoned, we have a switch. We have a switch which turns on, what the hell is this? What in the hell is this? What is that symbol? This is the first time I've ever seen one of these. It's not immediately forwarding the signal or the power onto the next connection here. I wonder why that is. What do we have to do? Do we have to connect some equipment to it somehow? How does this thing work? We've got a new mechanic, kind of. Here's the goal. There have been a lot of symbols in each of these puzzles that I have not really been paying close attention to, other than that they are different, which I'm not sure that we've seen in the previous 2 areas. Some symbology at the end of each puzzle. We might need to review those. Not sure if they're going to be important to, I don't know, a Sphinx puzzle or something. Either way, we have a blue receiver here, which I guess we have to power from this window with horizontal bars that's on the other side, and that'll lower this force field. That's the eventual goal. Here's this symbol. Getting a little distracted by this. Let's just note that away for now and keep going with the main puzzle. We have an inverter, we have a connector, and we have a couple different emitters that are locked behind some force fields. So our first step is figuring out, I think, how to get power to go through this. Let's turn this off again. Oh, I did not see that, right? I didn't note how it was. Okay, it's kind of like, gosh, I don't know what this circuit, maybe it's not exactly what I'm thinking of here, but either way, it looks like sending power through, I think I was thinking of a, is it a diode? That's not the right circuit equivalent. Either way, sending power to this is essentially, it's like a power blocker. Well, that's not it either. I don't know what you call it. It's some sort of like exclusive OR sort of logic connection. So this can lower this force field, but we want the power from that to be able to lower this force field. So do we need to, this is definitely a puzzle right off the bat, because, oh, okay, the way you do this is you just got to start thinking back. There's a lot of commonality between puzzles here, where you have to think about, you know, the fact that you have, what normally happens in a Talos puzzle, or often happens, is you have the ability to connect things even though there's a force field in the way. You can still connect connectors to either an emitter or a receiver, even if there is a force field that is currently blocking it technically, but you can establish the connection. And then you can go to some other part of the puzzle and lower that force field, and you get the connection that you wanted. It fully establishes the connection that's already there. So now, is that what we want? I think that's maybe the first step of what we want. The question is, what is the next step? We have an inverter here that we want to... It would make sense to take this red and then power this blue, but I don't think we can do that just yet. I think we first have to have... this red powering this blue to open up this force field. Maybe we do that to start. Because this force field is not powered by this switch. So if I turn this off, now that force field back there should be on no matter what. And now I can take this connector and I have that available to shoot here. I think that's the solution. Okay, some initial, whenever you introduce what seems like a new mechanic, often takes me a moment to kind of digest how that works and then remember how puzzles in general work in this game. But we got there. And that is puzzle number 5. Something I am also just noticing, there's no particle cloud this time. No particle cloud that is flying over to the ring. Are they just kind of bypassing that step as we go along? Was that happening in the last world? I don't remember if that was the case. I am also noticing the owl motif. We have the owls here in each of, maybe this has been in every puzzle so far that we've done. One of those details that sometimes takes me a while to actually process. What's up with the owls? Let's look at puzzle 1 again. Yeah, here is another, a totally different symbol. These have to factor into some other puzzle somewhere, right? We'll just keep making note of these, but we might have to go back to look at each puzzle eventually to see what that's all about. Looks like Melville is nearby, so let's just quickly get an update from her.
New Alexandria. What a mess. It was an attempt to start a new city, but it went about as sideways as it goes. Gas explosion, more than 30 dead, unrecoverable. Al was there for the whole thing.
Yeah, we heard earlier about, gosh, the experience that Al had, my goodness. But why would so much tech from New Alexandria be here?
Because the whole place was abandoned. Byron insisted that we had to rebuild, but for the survivors, it was just too traumatic to deal with. So I guess that stuff was just lying around for someone to pick up.
So the idea of trauma is a thing. The idea of pain, trauma, these really difficult emotions, also part of the robot experience, it seems. Looks like puzzle 6 is here. Here we go. Puzzle 6, hidden. It is kind of over in a kind of a hidden part of the map. What is hidden in the puzzle in this case? We have a force field and a blue emitter. We have a connector. And then we have a blue receptor here and a red receptor here. We have an inverter over there. A couple different purple barriers. In this case, it looks like the purple barriers both lead to the same area, which has this one inverter. Was that the one inverter that we saw? I guess so. So the one inverter back here has access to another red emitter, which lowers this force field. Gives line of sight to the blue emitter. And then eventually there are 2 pressure plates. So we need 2 pieces of equipment to get to the goal. And the only 2 that I've seen so far are this connector and this emitter. The emitter is already in here, so we just need to get the connector over to this side. So we need to lower, I guess, this force field. That looks like the only point of entry. So we need to get red to this here. And I can't go directly from that blue emitter because it does not have line of sight through this purple force field. So what I could do instead... What I could do instead is connect it up to this connector. Connector connects, confirmed. And now, are there any other emitters? There's no other. Oh, I want to. Okay, I want to actually, I think, take the inverter over here. This this angle here gives me line of sight to this. And it also gives me line of sight to this. So I can create a circuit that will bypass this connector. Now this is open, which means I can self-sustain through here and put this out here at this angle. So now that force field is open by this connector, and that lets me move this inverter over to this angle. And from this angle, I can get red to here, but I can also create that connection to bypass this connector. And the connector can now, I can just take that and go through here, and we're golden. Okay. If you're thinking along the right lines, if you're kind of thinking in terms of the Talos Principle and this idea of being able to self-sustain new angles, new points of connection, then some of these puzzles can be rather trivial. Let's check out the new interface content briefly. The Garden, new poem. I walk in the garden without fear as stars swirl across the sky, and I stand amongst the tall lilies who lift their faces to the passing eons. Here I will do no harm, and no harm will come to me, for at last my long journey is over, and I am at home. Beautiful, makes me feel calm and happy. This is my new favorite of yours, I think, although maybe Step by Step Towards the Nightingales might still win out. Let's say it's a tie. The words are definitely beautiful, but to me, it seems like a poem about death. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the positive spin on things here, an inspiring poem about being happy where you are. At least that's the vibe I think Amesh was trying to go for, more of an aspirational tone as opposed to, oh, this is it, I'm dead. Exactly, the value of having found yourself and your place, being at peace. Thank you for your thoughts, everyone. I really appreciate them. Oh, okay, it looks like this is the entrance to the Lost Labs. This is over here. So let's go ahead and we'll save that for now, and we'll keep working on, we'll try to find puzzle 7 here, and we will come back for that. And puzzle 7, here we go. Let's take a look at backward propagation. Oh God. That is actually an algorithm, I think. Back propagation. Oh God, those are scary words. If you know what those actually mean, but let's not try to think about that right now. Let's just try to do puzzle 7 in world E3. Okay, that lowers that force field. And then we have a blue receiver here that can also lower the force field. We ultimately have a blue receiver that we need to get to the end. And over here on the other side of the purple barrier, we have another inverter, and then we have a blue emitter behind a red powered force field. Where did we get... Okay, here's the... I was going to say, we need a power source to start things here, don't we? So we need... what? Ah, so I think I'm actually supposed to stand on this pressure plate. Because what I need to do is I need to have the inverter at this angle. Actually... This is curious. Because... Hold on here. I need to take another look at this other side. I do need a red here. Which I think... Let's not get overcomplicated here. We're starting with a red emitter. If I invert that, I now have blue from this angle, which then can be received by this inverter to convert to red, which then gives us access to a blue emitter. With that blue emitter, I can then just power this open and then have red being sent out from this emitter at this angle. Sorry, inverter at this angle. So I think that's actually what we want to do. So the original idea that I had... was to grab this inverter Oh, I maybe, okay, I think you've actually got to be even a little bit more involved here because this actually needs to come back to this angle? Question mark? Maybe not. I'm not sure if I can do what I want to do here. Because the angle to get this red emitter or red receiver does not actually hit this. It doesn't, I can't, well. I think I'm trying to do too much at once here. What is the first step? The first simple step is what? The only power source that I have access to is this. So why don't we go back to doing the simple step that I was trying to start with before I start thinking 3 steps ahead and getting overcomplicated. Let's just try to do what I did from the get-go and do this. And then I step on this. And now what I should end up with is a self-sustained circuit over there. And I can now remove this. And now this is open. And so red, I now have access to red from this angle. Now the problem, is that a problem? That's not really a problem, is it? Because all I need to do is just go here and here and here. And now I stand on this one more time. That's it, I think. And there is our backward propagation. The pressure plate was one of those things that I needed to activate, and only temporarily. Cool, cool, cool. Oh, there is a particle cloud. It's just very quick. Oh, it looks like there is a second audio log here from Miranda, I would assume. Why is she posed at such an awkward angle?
There's so much to discover on this island that sometimes it overwhelms me. Every lake, every forest contains an incredible, interconnected, permanently changing network of organisms. And every one of those organisms is almost infinitely complex and contains other organisms within itself. It seems impossible to ever really grasp, but then, step by step, I do understand. It takes time and effort, but it's not impossible. And there's a lot of joy to be found in simply taking the time to truly study something. I spent 5 years studying a single flower, and it never got boring.
I'm not sure that I would have the same level of dedication to spending that many years studying one single thing. I feel like I would get a little bit bored. It looks like maybe we want to actually solve the Pandora puzzle through puzzle 6. So since I'm right here, maybe we can take a look at that real fast. We just need a connector, right? That's all we need. And didn't we have a connector right out in the open? It's actually over here now, but all the force fields are down, so we essentially have it in the open. And then we just need to back up to where we can see green, which is over here. And we can shoot at green over here. Well, almost. Whoa. Okay, whoops. That scared me a little bit. So, do I need to bring it around this side? What's the right angle here? This surely should have line of sight, right? Except it doesn't have line of sight of the... There we go. Boom. Got him. Star time. There we go.
False idols are worshipped not because they are idols, but because they are false. True idols are rejected because the truth is feared.
Oh, this is kind of cool looking. Look at that. And I guess there's a terminal over here. So while we're over on this side, let's grab it. A single Lithrosir audio log. There we go.
The rotting remains of the old world should fill me with melancholy. Even here on this remote island, our ancestors could not escape their fate. And yet, I find there is something pathetic about these ruins that evokes anger and even contempt. I feel it is a mistake to accept this catastrophe with equanimity. What we see here should offend us. When witnessing this triumph of entropy, we should aspire to a warrior spirit, even a kind of hate of the past and its failures that will never allow such a thing to happen again.
I definitely don't have the same instinctive emotional response that Lithrasir has. What happens, happens. And there's not as much to be done about it, I don't think, as at least the way that he does. But we found some more remains here. It looks like an elephant? An elephant slide? There it is, the slide in the form of a pachyderm, a type of playground equipment in the form of a pachyderm called an elephant. Elephants survived the extinction of biological humanity and appear to be thriving in certain parts of the world. Hey, our good old pachyderm friends are still around. That's at least something. Nice. Yeah, we found something finally here. I've been exploring, as I've been doing in each of the worlds so far, I've been trying in between puzzles to explore as much as I can. And while every one of these areas just is absolutely sprawling and there is so much ground, I've said it every time now, there's so much ground to cover in each of these areas. There's just not that many things to find. It's something that I think, what is this back here? Oh, okay, we found something else. There's a couple things stashed over here on this corner at least, but it is perhaps a trap that I feel other games have fallen into, where you want to build this really amazing, expansive, detailed, beautiful world. And this is that, no doubt. But it also comes with the challenge of, you know, actually filling it with things for the player to find and making it worth the player's while to feel like they're not completely spending their time doing something that is only going to reap, you know, a couple very minor benefits. It's a tough thing with games. And I think that the first game did it pretty well. This game so far, it remains to be seen. We won't jump to judgment just yet. But the early verdict, I think, is that kind of wish there was more to find, considering just how big this place is. What is this? Okay. This seems noteworthy, but I don't know what to make of it immediately. A very conspicuous little structure with a staircase and then a tic-tac-toe board or a checkerboard? What the hell do we make of that? Aha, here's puzzle 8. I was looking for a moment where to find that, but let's take a look at our last numbered puzzle here. Positional Interchange. Positional Interchange. We have a connector that is on a pressure plate, and I presume as soon as we lift that, that force field's going to come into place. So I need a jammer, presumably, to be able to gain access to that connector. There's an inverter on the other side of this force field. There's another inverter and a... Oh, we don't necessarily need a jammer, we just need something to put in the place of the connector, which presumably is this box. Except how would I get the box to the other side of this purple barrier? This red... Oh, there's a fan. There is a fan. Where is the fan going to lead? If I blow this up in the air, I'm not immediately seeing how that is going to work out. But let's at least try to power that and find out. Now the question is, how do we do that? There's a blue emitter here. And the inverter, I guess we need to use this first to get the blue connected to here. We could, no, we have to go through the emitter. So let's just put that there. And now the emitter, or the inverter, emitter, inverter, connector, all these terminologies that you got to keep straight. Okay, that actually, it's not that we necessarily have to get the box out. This fan just allows us to elevate this inverter, doesn't it? So if I take this off of here, and I instead put it up here... No, that doesn't quite... It breaks the connection with this... The piece of concrete here breaks this connection. So that's not quite what we want. If I stand on that... I can't reach anywhere. I can't jump to anywhere that I would not be able to get to otherwise. So that doesn't really do much for me. Let's disconnect that for now. What does a fan raising up a box do for me? Because right now I have this connector that's stuck, essentially stuck behind this force field. Or at least it's stuck in place here until I find something else to pull the old Indiana Jones switcheroo on this pressure plate. If I could open this force field with red, maybe that should be my goal. If I open this force field with red, that means I can gain access to this emitter. That would be one thing. If I could get this box permanently... If I could get this box... Well, hold on. Do I need that box? Can I see red? I don't need the box. I just need to shoot red here. I don't even necessarily need to power the box. I just need to power that force field. So that gives me access to an inverter. That is much simpler. Now what I could potentially do... I am still not sure what to do with the box on the fan. It must do something. It's going to elevate one of my pieces of equipment. It's got to be this inverter. Because I can't take anything in or out of this little area here. So it must be about putting this inverter on top of the box so it's elevated and can be seen elsewhere. That must be it. We don't need that red powered anymore. Let's just put this here, like this. Actually, let's hook it up here. Now this... Well, I didn't mean to connect it to that other inverter. I just meant to put it down, but it actually may have done what I need to do eventually. Now, this is not self-sufficient just yet, or stable just yet, because I think what we want to do is we want to put this here. Or maybe a better way to do it would be to connect the blue source directly, so that we're bypassing the connector altogether. Oh, that's trying to transmit to this, isn't it? I want it to receive... No, this doesn't work. No, I need to do... Hold on. I need to do the Indiana Jones move over here. Right? Let's keep the connections. And just put you here. I think that is our bag of sand. Maybe? Now we just put this back here, but... I need to do it at a different angle. We do it here. Here? What about here? It still is not stable because it's still getting interrupted by this overhang or arch, stone overhang, whatever you call it. I need blue. I need blue to get here. The only source that I have is the blue source, correct? There's no red emitter anywhere. Oh, hold on. If we move this over here, and then we take this inverter and we power the red from here as a startup, now that should be good. Now we actually can power both of these red ones from here. But there's one more step to do because we actually need blue to reach here. So we're not quite home free just yet. I need blue to reach here, and I need it at an elevation so that it doesn't cross. I don't cross the streams. Theoretically, I could have, if I had an inverter that could go straight from blue. Maybe this inverter, if I bring that inverter back out, put the connector back in its place, then I could get blue to red right here. I could get blue to red here as well as blue to red there. But once again, I need eventually to get blue over here from an elevation. Right now, the elevated signal, the elevated inverter is outputting red. So maybe red is the one we want to have at an elevation. I could only... If I connected this inverter to this red receiver, I could open this force field, but it doesn't have an angle to see this. So I still need a way to pass on red. Huh. This is a tricky one. I'm not sure I see the solution to this. We might need to come back to this one. We still have one lost puzzle to do. Because there's a lot of moving parts. It might be helpful just to reset. We do have the ability to just reset, and maybe I will do that. Now that we've taken our first stab at it, let's go ahead and do that. Let's just do a reset here with X. Take another look at it here from the start. I need both blue and red to lower that last force field. It does seem that we're going to have one piece of equipment here. Like, I can do the Indiana Jones thing, but I'm always going to have... I can never take my bag of sand with me. One of these is going to have to stay at this angle. What does that mean for me? Something I just thought of is... Can I see the blue emitter from over here? I don't think so. The blue emitter does not have... I don't have an angle, even if I'm up on the box, even if the box is up in the air, it can't see the blue emitter from here, right? So, looking at it again from this angle, with that in mind, what does that mean? It means that the inverter that we're going to put on the box and elevate it, that inverter I think that inverter we actually don't want to sustain itself. I think that might have been where I was going wrong. I was powering that red emitter on the right in order to power the fan. I was using its own, the inverter that is inside of that self-contained area. But I think the better course of action is just to have this second inverter here, and it's going to power all three. It actually has an angle for all three of these red receivers from the blue source directly. I think that is actually the way we want to go. And then this emitter here, or inverter, we can just set on the box. And what it can do is it can take... In fact, let's go back to the way we had it before. We do need to first free We need to get red to here. So that means that we do need to have this inverter power that first of all. That's the first step. And once we do that, I think that's all we want to start with. So that frees this inverter. And this bag of sand, as I've been calling it, is actually going to be the key to the puzzle. Because it's going to connect to, I think, 4 different things. It's going to be connected to here, 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 as well as here. Let's set that down. Take you out of here. Keep the connections. Put that here. So it has line of sight, I think, to everything that's important to us. And now this connector comes out here. We remove the connections from this inverter. Oh, but I meant to... Hold on. Hold on, I need to set this down so it blocks that. And I want to just put this up here. I come back over here and reestablish the connection from this inverter to that inverter, which should reach there. So now I have blue being output from that inverter. And I think that gets me home because it is elevated and I now have line of sight to that. And I should not, hopefully, dang it, I keep left clicking instead of right clicking. Hopefully I can find a spot here where I don't cross the streams. Got it. Okay, there we go. That may be the first puzzle where I've been really excited. We got an achievement for that. Return to a puzzle for a second attempt. I guess in order for that to count, you have to reset the puzzle. That is what counts as a second attempt. We've had a puzzle or two where we've left and come back, but we didn't reset the puzzle. So another achievement unlocked, there you go. But I was very excited about that one because there was a breakthrough that we had to have. And we made it happen. Feels good. Let's catch up with Byron real quick while we're here.
We made 2 fatal mistakes in New Alexandria. One was trusting the texts of our ancestors without thinking for ourselves. The other was giving up instead of doubling down, letting the tragedy define our future.
It's a very easy thing to do when you have a tragic event or a traumatic event. It's just to kind of like try to separate yourself from it. It's tough to deal with that emotionally sometimes. What do you make of Pandora?
It's clear that there's some kind of antagonistic force in this place, something that doesn't want us to discover the purpose of the megastructure. Perhaps that's part of the testing. Or perhaps it's what's responsible for this state of decay.
Not sure about all that. I have a feeling that these things are all connected in some way. We haven't made sense of exactly what each projection is supposed to stand for, but I'm not sure that they're necessarily trying to stop us from getting to the end. What is the symbolic value of these entities we're encountering?
That's a good question. Prometheus is often taken to represent freedom and progress, the ideals of the radical enlightenment. Pandora, on the other hand, usually represents the dangers of those very ideals, so they're counterparts in a way. And the Sphinx is a mystery. Does that mean that these entities correspond to these concepts? Perhaps. They certainly seem to act like it. But Athena isn't the goddess of Athens, and I'm not Robert Byron, although those are the origins of our names. Where does myth end and history begin? We'll have to find out.
A couple question marks over in this direction. I think one of them is probably the Lost Labs, and then the other one just turned into, I think, the other lost puzzle. So, okay, we're right here. Let's go ahead and do Preconnected. Immediately greeted with a driller hole, which does allow us to take an inverter through. Not sure if we want to do that. Maybe we do because there is a pressure plate that we need to activate. So sure, let's take the inverter here. We could also, well, it's an inverter. I was thinking we could power this red receptor with this red emitter, except we have an inverter, so can't do that. So we'll instead open up this force field. And now what? Our driller can be used there. Anywhere else? Not immediately seeing any other driller walls, except there is one here. So the driller could be used to open that guy. In fact, it maybe has to be used as the thing on our pressure plate here. The activator for our pressure plate, which allows us to drop the inverter here. Now we head around to this side, and what? Now what? There is a red that I can get through here. Just trying to see where it lights up. There it is. It might have been a better idea to put the hole over here, which to give us a better angle. So let's maybe do that. Let's keep that connected. Although, is this really what I want? Do I want an inverter here? It potentially allows me to connect to this inverter if I can lower this force field. But how do I do that? This inverter is on a pressure plate, but I don't see what that pressure plate is activating or doing at all. Both of these force fields are active. What is that pressure plate connected to? Nothing? That's a mystery. Okay, what is our... Okay, something I had not noticed before is this blue receiver. So we could lower this force field either with a pressure plate or a blue receiver. So I could get a blue signal to this by... There's also a blue receiver here. Maybe I'm overcomplicating this by trying to put the inverter back here. It might not be that complicated, at least, or it might... I might be jumping ahead. What I might want to do... On the other hand, maybe not. Because this red transmitter, the red emitter, has no line of sight through this gateway here. It only has line of sight to the wall. Let's adjust this driller and put it right here. That might make things a little easier. I still am not quite... They have perfectly angled things so that this red emitter cannot get through here. So that probably means... Oh, I forgot about this driller hole. That's what we need to do. We need to get the red through here. That's the key. And that lets me power this, right? So I set that up here. Now we move the driller over here. Now that's powered. I can take this away. No, I can't. I don't want to take that away. But what I can do is also power up the blue here. So that lowers that force field. Now, so now I have access to this inverter and this pressure plate. What does the pressure plate do? It toggles these force fields. Fascinating. I would not have guessed that. Is there any visual indicator that would tell me that that is what happens, other than me just having to try and find out for myself? That's a peculiar one. It's a little reminiscent of that... I want to call it an XOR switch or panel that we had earlier with that power cable or power switch. Well, regardless, now I have this inverter over here. And I think ultimately we're trying to get red to the end goal. So now I think what we want is we want red to shoot through this driller wall. And so I have blue coming out of this inverter, and then that inverter takes blue and makes it red. I think that's what we do. So I can connect to red from here. And I think that's all I have to do. And just put it somewhere here. Almost. Almost. It has to do a little better, I think. I think you have to actually power the blue using this. That's what we potentially want to do. I might have to, like, put it back here. What's the furthest forward from this point that I can put this so that it still has line of sight to the blue receiver? I was right there. So theoretically, we can now move this driller right to there. And now that force field is powered up, and I have line of sight still to that inverter, and I think we have a win. Lost puzzle number 2. And I think that does it for all of the puzzles in this area. Let's go. Excellent. So what do we have left now? There's another question mark over here, which I think was the lost lab. So this feels like we're right here. This is a perfect opportunity for us to take a look at the other lab.
One of these labs, but they seem
Yes, it
limited
has.
compared to some of the technology we're seeing above ground.
That is a fair point.
Are we even sure that the labs and the puzzles belong to the same people?
There seems to be a connection between the experimental setups in the labs and some of the puzzle technology.
Correlation does not necessarily imply causation, though.
True. But just because we don't understand the connection, that doesn't mean it's not there. What we have here is two things that reflect each other. We just don't understand how that reflection works or what causes it.
Maybe Miranda can tell us.
Well, we would have to find Miranda first. That's step 1. One thing at a time. What the hell is this, though? Oh my god. We have some sort of anti-gravity? Whoa. That's a trip. Oh, no, it's not just anti-gravity. It's actually changing. It's completely shifting the orientation of the gravity, right? It wasn't necessarily that it was making those things float. It was putting a gravitational force on a particular side of this container. I think that's what's going on. Or maybe it's not actually gravity at all. It's just magnetism. I may have jumped a little too far in my conclusion there. It looks like these are kind of metallic, aren't they? And the inside is also some sort of potential magnetic material. That might be all that's happening, is we're just shifting the magnetic field here. Let's check out the terminal. The End Draft. Author Olufemi Kaneda. After a lifetime dedicated to the written word, I'm faced with a task I could never have expected. Writing an epitaph not only for myself, but for my species. Wow, gosh, can you imagine? In the unlikely event that Alexandra Drennan is successful, and one day someone reads this, we made it. What meaningful insights can I share into this strange phenomenon that is humanity? I've spent days thinking about it, but now I'm running out of time. So I'll set down the one thought that I simply can't shake. It didn't have to be this way. With more time, we could have found a cure. With a few political victories, we could have been prepared. Change any factor, even by a little, and we would have made it. This isn't divine punishment. It's just dumb luck. I'm reaching for something here, but I don't know what it is. Forgiveness? Grace? Acceptance? No, I hate the idea of accepting this. Hope, maybe. I feel like the story is unfinished. Maybe it should be. No epitaphs for humanity? I pray Drennan is right. And here's another one from Miranda. It didn't have to be this way. And yet it was. Who are these other people that are commenting here? To an extent, this is probably the sort of thought everybody's going to have to face at some day on a personal level. But it would be a whole different story if you're facing it on like a species-wide extinction level. Charon, I will say, is one figure that I am slightly familiar with, having played Hades. That Hades is a game that maybe is the extent of my knowledge of Greek mythology. So I do know that he is the boatman. From 51 Tales by Lord Dunsany, Charon leaned forward and rowed. All things were one with his weariness. And it was not with him a matter of years or of centuries, but of wide floods of time, and an old heaviness and a pain in the arms that had become for him part of the scheme that the gods had made, and was of a piece with eternity. If the gods had even sent him a contrary wind, it would have divided all time in his memory into 2 equal slabs. So gray were all things always where he was, that if any radiance lingered a moment among the dead, on the face of such a queen, perhaps as Cleopatra, his eyes could not have perceived it. It was strange that the dead nowadays were coming in such numbers. They were coming in thousands, where they used to come in 50s. It was neither Charon's duty nor his wont to ponder in his gray soul why these things might be. Charon leaned forward and rode. Then, no one came for a while. It was not usual for the gods to send no one down from Earth for such a space, but the gods knew best. Then, one man came alone, and the little shade sat shivering on a lonely beach, and the great boat pushed off. Only one passenger. The gods knew best. And great and weary Charon rode on and on beside the little silent shivering ghost. And the sound of the river was like a mighty sigh that grief in the beginning had sighed among her sisters, and that could not die like the echoes of human sorrow failing on earthly hills, but was as old as time and the pain in Charon's arms. Then the boat from the slow gray river loomed up to the coast of Dis, and the little silent shade, still shivering, stepped ashore, and Charon turned the boat to go wearily back to the world. Then the little shadow spoke, that had been a man. "I am the last," he said. No one had ever made Charon smile before. No one before had ever made him weep. Wow, there is something about that that I really like. It's an incredibly sad thought that is, I think, somehow, I don't know who Lord Dunsany is supposed to be, if this is supposed to be connected in some way to the tale of what happened at the extinction of humanity, but it feels connected to that. But then this one lonely ghost at the end of it all, "I am the last." There's something about that that is so haunting, but also really interesting to think about. Miranda, there is an obvious and perhaps intended interpretation that this is the end of humanity and the last shadow is the last human to live. But another interpretation is equally possible, that humanity has achieved immortality and the last shadow is the last human to die. I prefer the latter. That's an interesting interpretation as well, huh? Miranda strikes me as being very positive. She likes to think sunny side up. Noema Project 4. Trial 803, version 0.08 unsuccessful, same problem as with trial 108, repeated all calculations. 7479, same result, weird. 804 to 891, experiment modified to gain further insights into unexpected error, inconsistent results. 892 to 937, simultaneous trials affecting each other via unknown mechanism. What is going on here? Author C5358. Why is there a C there? Makes me think of C3PO. Well, I am certainly looking forward to checking out whatever this mechanic or piece of equipment is going to be, because this is the first one so far that feels very different and outside of the normal Talos Principle context of puzzles that we're used to thinking about. So looking forward to seeing what that's going to be about. So let's see if we can figure out what is going on with the Sphinx star. We needed to make it over here to this side of the island, I think, was where the photo's angle was taken from. Or the depiction, I should say. Let's check, let's actually just check the, where was this? Oh, it's these, yeah, this, okay, the engravings. Take another look at this here. We're kind of like slightly to the right. And then there's something, okay, I think it's trying to get us to go to this location. So let's head, yeah, we're too far here to the left, so let's head back over here. Feels like maybe this is the right angle. And then it's trying to point us to one of these rocks that's stashed back in the trees. Maybe this here. Hello? Anything here? Let's take another look at this. Oh shit, I'm noticing just now that there is some writing here. I don't know if this machine language, did we try to interpret that? I didn't even notice there was writing there. I don't know if that's important. It's not talking about one of these locations out here. We can't go out here, can we? This is all too deep. Yeah, we go underwater, so we can't go out there. I mean, maybe maybe we need to go further over here? There is like a little covered structure here. No, this is just back on the main path. What the hell am I missing here? This feels like pretty close to the right angle. And then where it, the spot that it's marking on the map, it feels like should be through here. But I'm not seeing where this leads to. Let's go back and look at the Sphinx monument, because maybe that writing is something that's important. Can I decode this? I cannot decode that. Damn it. Fuck, what the hell am I supposed to be looking for? Is it something that's behind? Maybe it's not pointing at an actual rock, but it's pointing to something that's further off than that. Let's go take another look. Because I was interpreting that X as though it was like directly on a rock, but it looks like it might be out in the middle of a grassy area. And maybe that grassy area is here? What the hell am I looking for?
Just when I thought we'd found all the weird stuff.
You're counting this as weird stuff. Okay, I wasn't expecting an interjection there by Melville, as I had taken note of the fact that there is a terminal here, but I'm still in, my brain is still in trying to figure out how to get that Sphinx star, but I really don't know what the hell I'm even looking for. Like, I'm not even sure I can recreate the angle that the photo is taken at, or it's not a photo, it's an engraving. But this angle here, where you can see this statue head on like this, is it here? Is that where you're supposed to be? And this X, it's like nothing, it doesn't seem to be pointing to anything close to this statue. Is it like much closer to the structure than I'm giving it credit for? Maybe I need to keep going. Like, is it something over here? All right, I guess what we'll do is we'll take a break from that, the scavenger hunt, or the Sphinx puzzle, and we'll do our last palm reader here, just to give our brain a break. Success! It worked! I made a statue! Well, it half worked. The design wasn't balanced, so it fell over and broke. It was very dramatic, but the good news is that it all works in principle. Imagine what we could do using stone, part of the environment. Miranda, I made a statue. This must be a reference in some way to this statue that is right near us here. She's talking about stone and part of the environment. Or maybe it's referring to the big structure, the big spiky structure. Okay, I think we also had another recording of Trevor. Yay, everybody loves a good Trevor recording, don't they?
So, humanity is great. I really believe that, and that's why I'm here. But I have to be honest with you, individual people, not always my favorite. I'm not the smartest guy ever, and I know that. But there are some people, man, some people are just so dumb. I don't even know if they're actually conscious. Sometimes I think their whole lives might be like a dream. They're just stumbling around, no idea what's going on, mumbling some random nonsense. And the thing that you have to understand about our time period is that a lot of these people wield enormous power. They run whole countries and corporations. Yeah, that's right. We've handed over our civilization to people I wouldn't trust to tie their own shoelaces. And if they're dumb, then what are we? I don't honestly have an answer to that, so just please try to do better.
There are often secrets. Yeah, I know from the first game that it was something that you wanted to do was peek behind bushes, because you never know when there was a switch hidden in a corner that you didn't poke. Because you never know when there was a switch hidden in a corner that you didn't poke. Getting distracted here by trying to do a funny little jump puzzle that probably has no importance other than my now interest in just getting to that one little outcrop or that one little part of the rock that's kind of jutted out on its own. I need to go a little faster. Oh, come on. I had it. Do I need to go third person camera here? Do I even have third person camera? Is that a thing? Toggle perspective H. I do have a third person cam. Okay. This is our we have gotten a glimpse of ourselves before, but we haven't been looking too often. Look at that, 1,000, 1K. Now, does this actually help me solve this here? This is not a bad perspective if you are trying to do a jump puzzle like this. Oh, I'm going way too far now. This is the premium content here that I'm sure you are all watching for. Nope, okay, I wanted to get up to here. Oh, come on, I was there. I took some damage, some fall damage. We had it. We had it. We just got to get up here. Boom, easy. No big deal. We conquered it. We got our star. Not really. Where the heck are we supposed to go, though, for this other thing? I have no clue. I have been poring over this particular area for I don't know how long now, and I am not seeing what this engraving is trying to point me to. I think I'm going to have to admit at least temporary defeat on this one. This is the first puzzle. It doesn't even... it's a Sphinx puzzle, so it's hard to say exactly. The last one in the previous world felt very straightforward. And I would think that this one would be straightforward to just kind of find whatever area they want you to look for, and then, you know, something pops out at you, but that has not been the case. So I don't know what we're supposed to find, and it's I think a mystery that's going to have to wait for now. We'll ponder it over and we'll try to get the fresh brain action to uncover it. For now, let's begin. The way that popped in was very strange. Let's begin with our Tetromino Bridge. Now, this bridge is immediately very different. I was supposed to jump there. Why did that not jump? Hello? This bridge is different from the previous bridges because there are actual stone structures that are in the way that we have to build around, it looks like. So we're sort of, I guess, forced to maybe go with this piece here. Feels like you kind of have to start with this L shape given the alignment of this stone structure. And then will it actually let me place? No, it won't let me place this piece because there's an object in the way. So we have to use something other than the 4-bar. And I mean, you can't use the 4-bar or the T shape, so you kind of have to use this one. So this is a bit on rails at the moment. Now this is maybe where you have a choice. Or not really, because the T shape can't be used here. So we're really kind of just being forced into one shape at each turn to get us to the end eventually. So, but they're introducing this new idea of, okay, you're going to have to work or structure your bridge around the environment in some cases. Could be a creative way to approach this mechanic. I guess we'll start with this piece just because it feels as good as any at this moment. And the general strategy of trying to keep oriented toward the middle felt like an okay way to go. But I think it's going to end us up in trouble if we just stick with that piece. We might have to go here. In this case, it looks like going to the middle is not the way we want to. We kind of need to angle to one direction and then come back to the middle. So let's go ahead and start over here. Let's start with maybe this piece. Start in this direction. And we can go here and then work our way. It might be better actually now with this one. Take this, but rotate it. This might be the way to go. And then maybe we can use either of these pieces to go ahead and get us to the goal. Okay. That seems relatively straightforward. Just looking around a little bit real quick before we head up the elevator. It did occur to me that we did not quite exhaust, I think, all of the dialogue from all of our characters. I've been trying not to I've been trying to intersperse some of that conversation with our puzzle solving to keep a good flow to the playthrough here. So maybe we can catch up with some of them when we get to the next area. I think their dialogue or whatever carries over so that you don't miss out on that. For now, let's take our elevator ride. My goodness, this is still just so... What a... This is my favorite structure yet. It is so cool. So fun to look at. And the elevator ride is always a trip as well. Who is going to greet us this time? Prometheus? Is it your turn? No, it's the Sphinx once again.
When the craftsman Daedalus was imprisoned in the very labyrinth he had created, his only solace was his son, Icarus. To escape their plight, he fashioned wings of feathers and wax. He warned his son to fly neither too high nor too low, but his son, enraptured by the freedom of flight, flew too close to the sun. Thus the wax in his wings melted, and he fell to his death. What was the sun's error?
What was the sun's error? We got a few choices here. Hubris, disobedience, carelessness, impatience, lawlessness, or idiocy. Idiocy. The wings were made from wax. I mean, come on. I think the one that makes the most sense is probably disobedience. You would think that presumably that your father would have a lot more experience and a lot more wisdom and also made the damn wings. So you should listen to, at the very least, the owner's manual, the person who wrote the owner's manual.
Yet many great feats came of rebellion and disobedience. You yourself are born of that lineage. After the death of his son, Daedalus withdrew in sorrow to a foreign land. King Minos came looking for the craftsman to exact his revenge. The answer to a riddle revealed where Daedalus dwelled, but for Minos, that answer was his ruin. Consider King Minos burned in his bath as you seek your own answer.
All right. I'm not familiar with the tale of Daedalus and Minos, although Minos Labyrinth comes to mind. I might have to investigate that one a little bit more.
The megastructure, it's opening.
There we go.
Receivers, 3 towers, 3 beams, as we suspected. I think this is an invitation.
Doesn't look that inviting to me.
If you consider the size of the entire structure, then that opening must be big enough to drive a building through.
Or the VTOL.
You want us to go in there, into the creepy triangular maw of death?
Maw of death? I think it looks charming.
Byron's right. We're here to explore, and this is a mystery worth investigating. This technology could change everything.
Oh, all right. I'm not winning this, am I?
Nope. Let's meet up with the VTOL, everybody. We're going in.
Yeah, Alcatraz is definitely outnumbered on this one. I think I'm also with Byron in that it is time to check out the megastructure. We've lit the last beam, and the megastructure has opened. It is time to go inside and see what is in store. There's still, like, I don't know, we just now have finished the first of 4 different quadrants of the island, but also we have a way inside of the megastructure that some things are opening up. We got to deal with our inverter mechanic here, and we had some fun puzzles, but there's another new mechanic now that has been previewed that looks really interesting. I thought it was anti-gravity at first, but maybe it's magnetism. We'll find that out as we wrap up this installment of Talos Principle, and we look forward now to the megastructure. We've been learning more to the story, more about Miranda, starting to maybe get a little bit of an idea of things, but not really. We really still have too many questions and not enough answers. But I am also going to be bugged by the fact that we were not able to get the solution to this Sphinx puzzle. I might be doing a little bit of off-camera exploration to see if I can come up with some answers as to what the hell am I missing. But either way, I'll be looking forward to pressing on to the next area, whether that be inside the megastructure. I know we have like a whole bunch of the islands still, don't we? We have all of these other areas. This one is flashing red. That is it's saying that we need to go to the megastructure next, I guess, or something like that. But either way, there's still like the northern side, the western side, the southern side. There's still so many puzzles to do, so many different areas to explore, and the views are just so good. This game is just breathtaking. I love the feel that each of these areas is evoking, even if it is a lot to explore, a lot of ground to cover. But I'm having a ton of fun, and I'll be looking forward to those puzzles. That we get it, whatever those next puzzles are. I almost want to do it right now. I don't want to put the game down. I want to see what the new puzzle mechanic is going to be, but that will be for next time. Thank you all very much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.